He was crying, red-cheeked, wide-eyed, clutching his little cup in two tiny hands, looking around the room for someone, anyone who would see him. I was upstairs, feeding my newborn daughter, trusting that my 4-year-old son, Louis, was in good hands. He was with family after all, with my brother Dave and his wife, Sarah. But when I came down, I didn't find peace or laughter or the usual chaos of a toddler underfoot. I found Louis standing alone in the middle of the room, tears streaming down his face. That image, it seared into my memory. I crouched to him immediately, heart racing, whispering, "What happened, sweetheart?" And when I pieced together his trembling words, when I looked over at Sarah and asked her why she'd ignored him when he'd just been asking for a drink, her answer stunned me. She said she knew what he wanted. She understood exactly what he meant, but she refused to respond because he hadn't asked correctly. She called it addressing his speech issues. I call it something else. Let me take you back. My name is Anna. I'm 32. My husband is Belgian. I'm British, and we raise our kids speaking both English and French. We live in Belgium, but every month or so, we fly back to visit my family in England. It's a long trip with 2 little ones, but we do it for the connections, for the love, for Louis and his baby sister, Misha, to grow up knowing their grandparents, their Uncle Dave. Louis is in that magical in-between stage. He's just turned 4, curious, imaginative, soaking up language like a sponge. He often mixes English and French in the same sentence, and it's adorable. "Je veux some juice," he'll say. Or, "Can I avoir the bear?" We gently repeat the sentence back in one language, smile, and move on. It's developmentally normal. His nursery teachers in Belgium even told us, kids raised bilingually often mix languages until their school years. There's no need to worry. But Sarah decided it was a problem. Sarah is 29, my sister-in-law by marriage. No kids yet. She's always had strong opinions. She's sharp, confident, and sometimes, without even noticing, she weaponizes that confidence like a scalpel. On our last trip back to England, Sarah started correcting Louis. Not helpfully, not gently, but sharply, like she was swatting flies. "No," she'd snap, mid-sentence. "Say it properly." She'd interrupt his little phrases with abrupt, impatient corrections. At first, I brushed it off. I assumed she didn't realize how harsh she sounded. Maybe she meant well. Maybe she was trying to help in her own way. But then she changed tactics. She stopped correcting and started ignoring. I noticed it subtly at first. He'd say something, and she'd look away. He'd ask a question, and she'd act as if she hadn't heard. My stomach turned the first few times, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe she was distracted. Maybe I was being too sensitive. Until that afternoon, until I walked down the stairs and saw my little boy sobbing, confused, rejected, unseen. He hadn't misbehaved. He hadn't thrown a tantrum. He had asked, politely, kindly, for a drink. Holding his cup, standing close to her. She looked at him, heard him, and decided not to help. Because he hadn't said it correctly. Because he had mixed a French noun with his English syntax. Because he was 4 years old and bilingual. I couldn't even speak at first. Rage caught in my throat. My baby boy had been punished for simply trying to communicate. And the punishment wasn't correction. It was erasure. Sarah defended herself calmly, as if she were talking about the weather. He needs to learn. You're ignoring his obvious speech issues. He has to ask properly. That's when my husband walked in. He saw the tears on Louis's face and pulled me aside before I could explode. We held our son that evening, let him calm down, gave him the drink he'd asked for so kindly, and I didn't say another word to Sarah until dinner. We sat around the table. The tension wasn't new. Family dinners often feel like tightropes, but this was something else. Then Sarah spoke. She reached across the table, looked at me and said, "Pass us the peas, will you?" Not "please pass the peas." Not "would you mind passing the peas?" No. She used a casual, grammatically incorrect phrase common in British slang. And something in me snapped. So I looked away. Didn't acknowledge her. Didn't blink. Just like she did to Louis. She asked again. Louder. Same phrasing. Again, I ignored her. Dave, my brother, looked up, annoyed. "Why are you ignoring Sarah?" And I said coolly, "I can't respond if she can't speak English correctly. It would be wrong of me to ignore her obvious issues with grammar." Silence. That thick, heavy silence that drops like a curtain. Sarah went red. Dave fumed. And my parents, bless them, they didn't say much, but their eyes told me they were caught in the middle. Later that night, I sat in bed and played the moment back in my head. Was it petty? Probably. Was it childish? Maybe. But here's what it wasn't. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't bullying. And it didn't make a 4-year-old cry. The difference matters. In the aftermath, Sarah was furious. Dave said I had humiliated his wife. My parents tried to keep the peace, urging me to let it go for the sake of family harmony. But my husband stood firmly by me. When I told him what happened, when he realized the full extent of Sarah's behavior, he said, without hesitation, "Maybe we should cut this visit short." We didn't, but I made a quiet decision. I will never leave my child alone with Sarah again. And before we leave this time, I will speak to her and to Dave, clearly, firmly, because this is not about grammar. It's about empathy. It's about the kind of adult you choose to be when a child, small and vulnerable, asks you for help. My son is not broken. He is brilliant. He is learning 2 languages, navigating 2 cultures, building bridges across borders with every sentence he forms. So no, I'm not going to apologize to the woman who made him feel small for doing something extraordinary. And if she can't see the difference between gentle correction and cold rejection, that's her problem to fix. So, am I the asshole? Sometimes, the clearest way to show someone they're being cruel is to hold up a mirror. What makes this story unforgettable isn't just the drama. It's the deep ache beneath it. A little boy who just wanted a drink. A mother who trusted her family. And the slow, dawning horror of realizing that not everyone treats your child with the kindness they deserve. This story speaks to something universal. What do we do when someone crosses a line with our kids? Do we smile and stay silent to keep the peace? Or do we draw a line of our own? And when someone insists on enforcing impossible standards on a child, how do we hold them accountable without becoming the villain ourselves? Sometimes the most powerful way to teach someone a lesson is to play by their rules, just long enough to show how absurd those rules really are. If you've ever had to defend your child against subtle cruelty, if you've ever watched someone you love be dismissed or judged for simply learning, this story is yours too. What would you have done? Let us know in the comments. And remember, sometimes standing up for your child means risking being misunderstood, but it's a risk worth taking. This is AITA Story Vault. Thanks for listening.